What's up, everybody, and welcome into another episode of the Uptempo Podcast. And tonight we are here on a Sunday evening to talk a little Auburn sports. A lot has went down over the weekend, and tonight I'm here joined by my good buddies Dustin and Gray, and we're excited to have you. And fellas, it's a Sunday night. We're a lot of information has come in about the Auburn Tigers, and I'm ready to talk about it. Dustin, I'll start with you, man. I know your Tampa Bay Buccaneers. They just struggled. They've been struggling. Tough go on another Sunday in the NFC South, man. Tell us a little bit about that.
Mo does a far drive. I don't know what you're trying to get at. I will come up there. Look, man, it's whatever. Brian Harsin has shown me the depths of football, what pure ineptitude is like, and Todd Bowles is just reaffirming, yes, that is possible. It's also you can do it on the NFL level as well. Anybody that cannot figure out how to score points with Tom Brady, Chris Godwin, and Mike Evans is an idiot and is not capable of coaching football on the NFL level. And I should be compensated for the shit that I've had to watch this year when it comes to offensive football. And I'll leave it at that.
Oh, man. Yeah. I watched a little bit of it, man, and I had to actually turn it over onto Red Zone and just span around the league and catch other games. But it's the NFC South is wide open, man. No idea who's going to win that division, but
such a bad division.
Oh, dude, and the Panthers go up to Seattle and they get a victory. I mean, it's wide open. It is wide open. But Gray,
Gray's
man.
a Panther.
Yeah.
Oh, you're a Panthers fan, huh?
I am. I've been that way since Cam was drafted back in April of 2011. Yeah.
Okay. Yeah, well, Gray, I really appreciate you joining us tonight, man. I want you to tell us a little bit about what you do and just a little bit about your past and everything like that, and talking on the radio and podcasting and all of that stuff, man.
Yeah. Well, first of all, thanks for having me. Love listening to y'all. Love listening to this podcast. It's one of my first listens. Every time y'all get one up. But I'm a student. I'm an Auburn student right now, and from Birmingham, a little small town just outside of Birmingham called Chelsea, and grew up playing basketball, played football when I was a kid. Always loved sports, loved Auburn sports. My mom went to Auburn, and my grandfather played football in the 60s at Auburn. He played offensive guard, and let's see if I count five greats. My great grandfather was the president of API back a long time ago in the very late 1800s. So I've got orange and blue in my blood. I'll always have orange and blue glasses on. So Auburn was the only choice for me. But for me, with always loving sports, I love to talk sports. And I got started on the E2C network with Kyle, doing Inside the Jungle, we're working on the basketball podcast, and then now do the Jungle Show on Auburn Daily's YouTube channel. We're going to start doing that 2 times a week with my dad, talking more about Auburn basketball. And we've started up a couple buddies of mine from high school started up who are also in the same business industry, I guess you can say. I've started up another podcast here in the Birmingham area. It's on the Tony Curry Radio Network, or you can find it on your podcast. You just wherever you get your podcast, Tony Curry Radio. So called Students of the Game, where we just talk more Auburn football, Alabama football, Auburn basketball, all stuff Alabama sports, and other stuff going on. So thanks for having me, guys.
Yeah, man, I really appreciate you coming on here, and like I said, I wanted to start out with all the big time news that is going on at Auburn. Just today, we wake up this morning, Gray, and we realize that we're getting 2 flips and commitments in football, and hey, I don't care what anybody says. This is big time for Hugh Freeze, the new staff that is being put in place. These are two guys that, hey, we might not have thought that we were going to get, but we ended up flipping them. And could you tell us a little bit about that, Gray?
Yeah, no, I mean, first of all, the one this morning, 6'6", 310-pound offensive tackle, and I want to say that again, offensive tackle. This guy actually played offensive tackle in high school, and he decided to come to Auburn University. That has not happened since what, Braden Smith or Calvin Ashley? I don't even know. It's a shocking commit. It was shocking to me, at least, but it's a huge start, a great start for Hugh Freeze in the recruiting trail. Not only getting those commitments, but flipping them as well, and then getting Colton Hood to come back, Rodney Hood's nephew. Getting him away from Michigan State. That's another really good corner, really good get for a guy like Zach Etheridge in that defensive back room. So I'm excited, man. I'm excited.
Love that. Dustin, man, what are your thoughts on the two big flips today?
It's Hugh Freeze cleaning up Harson's mess. A guy like Colton Hood, he would have been committed to us a long time ago, man. That's an Auburn legacy guy. And if he just would have been shown the love that he deserved, he would have been on the and also with Tyler, he was at Big Cat and he chose Texas Tech. If you get a guy to come to Big Cat and you really want him, he should never pick Texas Tech over Auburn, especially with the need that we have at offensive line. So this is just kind of Hugh cleaning up the mess. I feel like there's also some silent commits. You got the 4-star DB that is committed to Ohio State. At any time, I expected to see the decommitment from Ohio State and then him announce his commitment to Auburn. I feel like he's probably already told the staff this weekend if you trust, what all the insiders are saying on that one. And seems like the big offensive tackle that's currently committed to South Carolina, seems like he had a good time as well. I'm interested to see what we do with quarterback. It's just, man, I love recruiting. It's my favorite thing about college football. These next 2 weeks are going to be a blast. And you're going to see competent. You're going to see competent recruiting. Like, I think Hugh Freeze. I don't think he's lying. I don't think he's lying, guys. I think he enjoys to do it. And even if he doesn't enjoy to do it, he understands the importance of it. And I mean, it's just refreshing.
It's going to be new for all, especially recently.
Absolutely. Absolutely 100%, man. And I put that on Twitter the other day that Hugh Freeze, once he landed, he hasn't stopped recruiting. He hasn't stopped working. He hasn't stopped doing the things that the last guy and his staff didn't care to do. And that is my biggest thing is you have to recruit in this league, and it's being shown by look at the high school coaches, fellas. They are literally getting on Twitter and posting photos saying, hey, these guys are coming to our schools. And I never saw that with Harsin. I'm down here in Mobile, Alabama, and we had Ryan Williams, Hollywood Williams. His dad played at Auburn. They play the state championship game in Jordan-Hare, and he's an Alabama commit. He's the best player in the state of Alabama, and he's in the 10th grade. He'll be a junior next year. And Harsin just, oh, well, it is what it is. He's going to Alabama. Like,
Blake,
no, his dad played at Auburn.
Yeah, but he was gonna out scheme everybody. Yeah. He was a guru.
Yeah, he was an offensive guru, and I mean, all he did was, I tell you, the best thing that he ever did was, I think the best thing that he ever did was throw the headset against Georgia. I mean, that's probably the most intensity that I've ever seen out of him. But just he's being made a clown show right now because Hugh Freeze is just obviously showing him how it's done, and that is ultimately why I wanted a coach with SEC ties, man, because, like I mentioned on the last episode, when they started mentioning guys like Jeff Brom and people like that and Brian Johnson, I just, I know Brian Johnson had small SEC ties, but I wanted a proven head coach in this league, man. And I'm just glad they went the Hugh Freeze route. I know some Auburn fans aren't happy about it, but we find out just recently here tonight that Hugh Freeze has hired 2 coordinators. Ron Roberts, the defensive coordinator, he was recently let go at Baylor. And then you look at the offensive side of the ball, and they go after Philip Montgomery. He will be the offensive coordinator from Tulsa. I believe he was the head coach at Tulsa. And they parted ways recently. So, Gray, I want to start with you, man. How do you feel about these 2 hires from Hugh Freeze?
I think they're both perfect for the coordinator positions, especially on the defensive side. Hugh talked about in his press conference when he was announced, he needs to go find a defensive guy because he's the offensive guy. He will probably end up calling plays, but he needed somebody on the defensive end that was a really good X's and O guy. Look, you've got defensive recruiters on that side, especially after going against Crime Dog. You've got Zach Etheridge, you got Christian Robinson. You've got defensive recruiters. You need somebody to put that defense together. And I think Ron Roberts is the perfect guy for that. Obviously, it was kind of a bit of a surprise. We're recording this not too long after it just became official, but that's a name that we didn't really have out there when we were talking about the defensive coordinator position. But I think it's a good hire for that spot. And I think it's the same way with Philip Montgomery and the offensive coordinator position. He's really good at Tulsa. His head coaching experience at Tulsa, and with him being at Baylor, he was the guy that brought RG3 up and won him the Heisman. So they're good. They're good hires. It'll be interesting to see again who calls plays, how that's handled between Hugh and between Montgomery. I think it'll be interesting, but I think they're both solid hires that Auburn can build on.
I definitely agree with that, man. I look at Philip Montgomery's background and just all the quarterbacks that he has worked with. I mean, he's worked with guys like Case Keenum, RG3 when he won the Heisman. I saw Nathan King put out a piece on that, and I think that is actually what we need. We need a guy. You look at Robbie Ashford right now. I'm not sure what's going to go down in the portal, so I'm not going to go down that road. But Robbie Ashford is QB1 right now. And what better way to hire a guy that has produced a Heisman Trophy winner? So, I think Robbie's got to be smiling about that. And Dustin, man, how are you feeling about these hires?
Oh, I'm all in. And Hugh Freeze, I trust. Like y'all talked about, RG3, Kevin Cobb, and Case Keenum. You think back to those guys, those them running an offense, and man. And what's interesting to me about that is, I know RG3 obviously more of a runner, but with Cobb and Keenum, that's just air raid lighting it up pretty much what they ran. That would be interesting to see that kind of mixing in with Hugh Freeze, which was kind of what was some of the talk. What was the guy from North Carolina? His name slips my mind.
Longo?
Phil Longo.
Longo. Yeah. That was kind of the talk with Longo, right? Was that he's a passing guy and that they would kind of mix it in with Hugh Freeze's run. So it kind of seems to be something similar to that. That'll be interesting. And the thing that I like about this is we look at his track record with QBs. We look at Hugh Freeze's track record with QBs. And then you think about a guy like Ken Austin as well. I think we have 3 guys on staff that we can really trust with the quarterback position. And personally, I don't think you're going to add anybody in the portal that is going to be that much better than Robbie. I think Robbie's the guy. I think Robbie wants to be the guy. I think that Robbie showed you all the intangibles into why he could be the guy. And let's not judge anybody that was, that was under an Eric Kiesau, Brian Harsin regime. Let's let Hugh Freeze get a hold of him. And those 3 guys I just mentioned, and let's see what we got. And so I'm excited about that. And then with Roberts, 30 years coaching experience. When you look at what he did at lower levels, he coached at Delta State 5 seasons. 4 of those seasons, he won a conference title, and one of those was a D2 national championship. He went to Southeast Louisiana. When he took over that program, they had never won a conference title. They were a doormat in their division, and he won 2 conference titles right out the gate there. The guy knows football, and when you have a guy that's 30 years of experience, he's seen it all. There's nothing in game that's going to catch him by surprise. And then you got guys like Crime Dog and Zach that can do the recruiting and can kind of keep the energy and, be those voices in the locker room as well. So I like the mix, and I'm excited that it's all over now and that we can just focus on recruiting, knowing what we've got in place.
Absolutely, 100%, man. That is my main thing. Is it's over, it's done. Let's focus on recruiting. Let's go attack the portal. Let's turn this ship around, because, like I've mentioned before on this podcast, we were slowly headed for a head-on collision in the Atlantic Ocean, just like the Titanic. And I remember the night that Joker was hired. I said that we were headed to Vanderbilt and Tennessee territory, and I honestly feel like these two hires could be exceptional for Auburn. I think that Hugh Freeze could be exceptional for Auburn, and I think that this school woke up and realized that the trajectory that this football program was on, it had to change. And they woke up and they made a decision that they said, hey, we're going to try to match what the school across the state's doing. And you might not get there. I'm not saying we're going to go out and win 6 national championships with Hugh Freeze, but they're tired of being mediocre. And that day, I honestly believe that Auburn University said that day of being mediocre is done. It's over. We're going to do what we have to do to win football games. So I believe in Hugh Freeze, just like both of you do, and I'm excited about the future. I can't wait. I'm so excited that I'm thinking about flying out to California to a Cal game. I sit here and I say that because, I watch Pac-12, man, and they have like 4,000 people in the stands, and me and Dustin have talked about it. Gray, man, I just, that was one of the first things I said, man, am I going to pay all this money to go out there and there'd be like 5,000 people in the stands? I mean, I don't know, man. I don't know.
There.
Yeah, I'm saving up my money for the Ole Miss.
Yeah.
Oh man, how and how good is that gonna be? I mean, he takes. I mean, he the shot and says, Lane Kiffin says, hey, I would tweet you, but somebody else has got your Twitter handle, and they're taking over your social media stuff. Look, fellas, I'll be honest with you. I was very high on Lane Kiffin, but looking back at it, I'm kind of glad we didn't get him. And I think he's kind of childish, man. The more I look into it, like the way he gets on Twitter and just some of the stuff that he says, like that's just straight up childish, man. Like when I saw that, I was like, dude, why are you even doing that? Now you have to come to Jordan-Hare next year. And I mean, this atmosphere, because I mean, Gray, tell me I'm wrong, man. Me and Dustin have talked about this, but the way what he did to his fan base at Ole Miss, Gray, how do you accept that back? Like, I don't get it.
No, if I'm an Ole Miss fan, I'm like, well, they did want us to get him right after the Egg Bowl. They were like, no, Auburn, you take him, you can have him. And I was like, well, I don't know if I really want him after that, but okay. But no, him coming that Ole Miss game next year. I was talking with my dad earlier. Look, if there's one game where you need to attend on next year's schedule, it's that Ole Miss game. Not only with Hugh Freeze, that's hiring Hugh Freeze, but that Lane Kiffin stuff, and Ole Miss is going to be a solid football team next year. Wow, that's going to be crazy. I really hope it's a night game. I just know it's going to be 2:30 and CBS is going to ruin all the hope and all the dreams I have for that game. But I really hope it's a night game.
That's a fact, man. I hope it is too. Go ahead, Dustin.
And do you feel like me on this too? Now with the trash talk that went on during the process, now it's like, I kind of want to play Ole Miss. Just to remind them, like, you're Ole Miss.
Yeah, Yeah, no, it's unbelievable how their fans, just because they won this year, think that the last 6 years have not happened.
Or what is it, 35-10 all
Or
time? Like,
yeah, like your Ole Miss, like Lane has hit the absolute ceiling there, and yes, with the 12-team playoff format coming in, they're going to end up making the playoff because he's going to have good teams. But
until Jimbo gets fired.
ooh, but he's hit the ceiling at Ole Miss. You're Ole Miss. You've never been to Atlanta. You're not gonna go to Atlanta. Nobody expects you to go to Atlanta because Alabama, especially if we go to no divisions like Greg Sankey's saying that we're going, no chance. Ole Miss has no chance. It's Ole Miss.
I agree 100%. And then you bring on Texas and Oklahoma. Those are just two more programs that are historically better than Ole Miss. So you just fall even more down the totem pole. So that's one game that I think is going to be exceptional next year. But fellas, before we get into basketball talk, real quick, I had to ask you. The Heisman Trophy ceremony happened last night, and I just wanted to get both of your thoughts on this, because my thoughts on it are this trophy and this ceremony has turned into an absolute joke. And
it's pathetic.
I look at this, and I had a conversation with David Cohn about 2 weeks ago, and I said, David, it's a travesty if Blake Corum doesn't get invited to New York City. It's bottom of the barrel. It can't happen. And he told me, he said, man, I honestly don't know if he'll get invited because, he might not play against Ohio State. And that one game is going to keep him out. And so, I look at Hendon Hooker, he got invited. And the things that he did in Tennessee, it's just you got Stetson Bennett. He does get solely because why? His team is undefeated. They're probably going back to back. It's a popularity thing, in my opinion. You look at the MVP voting for the NBA and the MLB and everything. It's ultimately, man, it comes down to a popularity contest for majority of the MVP votings and things like that, man. And I look at this, and Dustin, I'll start with you, man. What are your thoughts on this? And do they just need to rearrange the voting system, or how do they need to go about this to change what the to be?
I think we're here because the money people have decided that tradition in college football will be secondary. And what I'm saying is you like, man, when I was a kid growing up, you're going to watch Army, Navy, and then after that, you're going to tune in for the Heisman. You weren't going to miss it. And it was a big conversation. It was usually, if it was a big debate, unless somebody just stood out. But even if you knew somebody was going to win it, it was something that you watched and was held in reverence. And it's just, you used to care about going to a January 1st bowl. Now bowl games are held whenever the hell, and it's just rivalries have got shot. There's so many that don't even play anymore. It's just, we've gone away from tradition, and we continue to go further and further away with these new conference realignments. I'm not a fan of the 12-game playoff. The portal, just there's so many things that are going on that are just leading it away from the college football that we grew up on. So I think that that's a byproduct of it. It's just so many things that were been held in reverence and were for so long. I mean, I guess what I'm trying to say is it just doesn't hit, man. Like I didn't even think about it. I didn't. I watched our game versus Memphis, and then I recorded the end of Army Navy. I watched that, and then I went on about my night. It wasn't until Sunday till even I saw who even won the Heisman Trophy.
Man, I'll be honest with both of you. I didn't watch the ceremony either last night. I was getting ready towards the end of the Army Navy game. I went and had dinner with my family, and we went to a little Christmas thing over in Fairhope, and it was like a little kids thing for my daughter and my nephew and things like that, man. And I didn't even pay attention to it. I get a notification on my phone, and I just think that it's become a joke. And Gray, man, what's your thoughts on it?
Just like Justin said, college football is so different from what it was, not just 2 years ago, but 3, 4, 5, and 10, 15 years ago. And it's just getting farther and farther away from what we all know and love as college football, with the portal, with the playoff, with the conference realignment, and completely taking geography out of the question there for the Big Ten. And the Heisman Trophy ceremony is just another example. I didn't watch the ceremony either. None of us watched the ceremony because it didn't. 4 years ago I did, even though I knew Joe or even I knew who won the Heisman Trophy. I wanted to watch the Heisman Trophy ceremony. Last night, no, not at all. The thing with Corum and Hooker not being invited is ridiculous, and it just shows how it's become a popularity contest. And the perfect example is that, just like you said, is the NBA MVP, because they say it's the most valuable player. That's not what it's turned into. It's turned into who has the better stats. And that's what the Heisman Trophy is turning into, and is turning into a quarterback award. Look, the Heisman Trophy, like the actual physical trophy, has a running back on it's a running back. No running backs were there last night. It was 4 quarterbacks. And I do think that they got the decision right. I think it should have been Caleb Williams. I don't think he was outstanding, but I think he was, of the choices available, the best one. It's just weird. It's just not the same.
Yeah, I agree. 100%. It just doesn't have the mojo that it used to have. The name doesn't carry the way it used to, and we're in a weird times of college football. We really are. It's I think some of it's fun, but then some of it's just head scratching. I'll be honest with you. Everybody that listens to this podcast knows I'm not a fan of 12-team playoff. I can't even fathom just thinking about it in 2 years. I just, it hurts, man. It really hurts. We couldn't even find 4 teams this year. So what are we going to, what are we going to do with 12? Yeah. It should have been a 3-team playoff this year. All right. Michigan and TCU play. The winner plays Georgia. How about that? That's how it should have been. Yes. It's ridiculous. It's all about money. I'll be honest with both of you. That's what it ultimately comes down to. It comes down to money, and that's the way we're headed. So, but getting off the football talk, and we're gonna kick it over here to the Auburn basketball side of things. Auburn falls in Atlanta 82-73 to the Memphis Tigers. Gray, I'll start with you, man. Just give me your overall thoughts on the first half and the second half, man, of what went down last night in Atlanta, man.
I think Bruce Pearl said it the best in his post-game presser. We got out-coached. We got out game plan. We got out-hustled. Memphis wanted to be there. We did not. They shot better than us. They rebounded way better than us. They played better defense than us. It was just a completely outdoing from Memphis over Auburn in this game. And, we were talking pre-show. A loss is needed to happen. And especially a loss like this, where Bruce Pearl can go and fix a lot of things. None of the problems Auburn was having against Memphis or has had in the past aren't fixable. It's not like we can't look like a top 10 team. It's not like we can't look like a team that could go on and win the SEC and make a run in March. We have the talent, we have the coaching, we have the personnel, we have the lineups, we have the experience, we have that stuff. We just needed to lose the game so Bruce Pearl and his staff can go to the practice and go to the film room and fix these things. And wow, losing in this way, obviously it hurts. Like, we were just talking about the Heisman Trophy ceremony. One of the reasons I didn't watch it is because I was upset about this. Because this was hard to watch. Just got out hustled. A lot of problems, but just like I said, a loss is needed. A loss, we're not going to go undefeated. We're not going undefeated in the SEC either, Auburn fans. But especially with how good the SEC is. But this is a loss that you can build on. There are a lot of losses. A lot of teams are losing these games, especially early in the year. That I don't know if you can go to the film room and go to the practice and go, okay, we can build on that. We can fix these things. Auburn can in this 9-point neutral site loss in a quad 1 game against a very good and very prepared Memphis team.
Yeah, 100%, man. Memphis, coached by Penny Hardaway. We obviously know what they can do, man. They took Gonzaga to the wire last year in the second round of the NCAA tournament. We know they have a rich history. Like you said, a quad 1 loss there. Dustin, your thoughts, man? I know a lot of things that we talk about on recap episodes happened yesterday, but give me your thoughts, man. I got to hear it.
Oh, like Gray alluded to, Bruce said it, he got out coached and we just got beat in every phase pretty much. And it's not you're going to get out coached. What was the guy? I won't say his name was Andy Kennedy, something like that at Ole Miss that always seemed to have Bruce's number. It just happens, man. And we had it coming. We've talked about it and I just don't know. This team just kind of is what it is to me. I think we can improve at the things that we're not good at, but I don't know by how much. So when we get out rebounded like we did, and we don't, how many blocks did we finish with? 2?
2, I think. 2.
Yeah. I mean, so far cry from our nation leading 8, right? And the announcers made a good point in the game about that stopping us from getting the fast breaks. And I still thought our defense was okay. I mean, we created 19 turnovers. It's just, like I said, the rebounding, the second chance. There was several times just loose balls that were getting slapped out of our hands when we were getting on them, 3rd, 4th. I mean, there was one possession where I wanted to smash the TV, man. It kept going and
like grab the ball.
Yeah. And you go back to the Chris Moore where he missed a layup where Bruce thought he was fouled, and the one where Bruce, got teed up. Just a lot of plays like that where it just was like, okay, man, this just isn't our night. And that's fine. I mean, if you go back to the 2019 team, probably the best Auburn team of all time, they had plenty of nights like that where it just wasn't their night. So it happens, and it's going to happen again. It's going to happen a couple more times for this team. If you listen to this podcast, I've said this team's going to lose 7 to 9 games. And I don't think that's a big deal. It was funny to me to kind of watch the freak out. It's like it's the football mindset.
What?
Yeah. No, we lost to Memphis. Yeah, it's gonna happen. It was a little, it was frustrating for it to happen the way it did. What was concerning to me was how much more physical they were than us. And a question I kind of wanted to ask y'all about that was I was sitting there watching that game, and I watched Chance, and I'm just thinking, they're so much more physical than us. Maybe it's just the game to give Trey those minutes instead of Chance.
Yeah. I was wondering that. I was wondering the exact same thing too. I mean, I've been rooting for Chance for so long because we watched what he could do in Israel, how good he was in Israel, and how outstanding, not just on the offensive end, but on the defensive end too. He had 7 steals that one game. But I don't think he's got that together right now. I think we're also throwing him into some bad fire. I mean, letting him be the point guard behind Wendell is, I don't know if that's a great idea right now. I think we should try and let him play with somebody like Wendell, and then let Trey, who's a more, he's not as tall, but a more physical point guard, handle those backup point guard minutes. So I agree.
I like that. I like that. Fellas, one thing that we always talk about on this podcast is Auburn's lack of shooting. And last night, once again, 6 of 24 from three. It's something that I think is going to hinder this Auburn team. And I watch KD, he comes out, he nails a three, and I'm like, okay, here we go. Zep Jasper, he come right out the gate, hits a 3, and I'm like, hey, we're going to be on fire. Here we go. And then all of a sudden, it's like the wheels fall off. We can't make shots. Offense looks seriously. It seriously looks so hard to get a bucket. It's just ISO, drive to the rim. Sometimes it's just throw something up. And I'm wondering, Gray, I'll start with you, man. I'm wondering, where do we generate offense from? How do we get better shots? Because that's another thing that I always preach is shot selection, man. Like, I don't know where this is going to come from. How do we fix this?
I think the first thing right away is you need to adjust where the offense is coming from. And right now it's coming a lot through Wendell, and that's okay. He's point guard number one. The offense does need to run through him. I've been saying it all off season. Jalen Williams has to shoot more than 6 shots. He's the senior. Bruce said literally right after the Miami game, right after that Miami loss, he said, next year I'm building through Jalen Williams. And I mean, Wendell had more shots than him. Janai had more shots than him. He had the same amount of shots as Chris Moore. KD had an absurd amount more than him. Chance only had 1 less than him. Allen only had 1 less than him. Jalen needs to be our leading shot shooter, in my opinion. Whether that come in the post, he's very good with his left hand and his left hand hook. Obviously, his 3-pointer was nice. Every time he gets the ball on the perimeter, because teams don't think he can shoot. I don't know why, but every time he gets the ball on the perimeter, he's always looking to reverse the ball and pass and look for other players. And that's not a bad thing. I think he needs to step up and be more aggressive offensively.
Dustin, do you have any thoughts on can fix this? Maybe a guy that needs to step up or anything, man?
Yeah, I don't want to sound like I'm being hard on him. I talked with Gray and his dad about it. Wendell Green's got to raise his floor. I don't care that he finished with 14 points. I don't think that he had a good game. I don't think that he played that well. And this team is not going to win too many games in the tournament, and we're not going to win too many games in the SEC on the road that if he's not playing well. The offense has to go through him. I agree that Jalen has to be more aggressive. And one thing we're going to have to find is we're going to have to come up with a guy. We're going to be in tight games. So who is going to be the person that we can look at? Last year was a no-brainer. So even even when we were struggling, it's like, okay, we know who the ball is going to go to. Now, I think we all kind of got fed up with last possession of the game, it being Wendell taking a bad 3 instead of Jabari getting the ball
against Arkansas. Yeah.
And I know that shout out to Daryl and Zach on their recap. They made this point because I've been feeling this way too. Shut up with the logo win thing. Shut up with that. It's a bad shot. And if he hits it 2 times out of 10, those 2 times for your stupid little highlight Twitter video so you can make your meme are not worth the 8 really bad shots that lead to a long rebound and a transition bucket for the other team. It's a bad shot that we don't hit, and we never hit it. We never hit it anywhere outside of Auburn. So we're going to keep preaching shot selection. And yeah, it was just there's just not a path for this team to win when we get out rebounded. And it's hard for any basketball team to win when they get out rebounded the way that we did. And then when you look at just the way we got dominated physically down low, I mean, Janai had a really, really rough first half. So there's a lot of questions, that we're going to have to find answers to. It's just who's going to be the guy. We're gonna have to come up with some plays. We're gonna have to come up with some sets that when we get into these situations, okay, this is a look we know we can go to. And right now, I don't think we don't have any of those. So, like we talked about, you're not going to go undefeated. So we have a good coaching staff. We have high IQ players. I think they'll get into the film room and figure out something. They're going to have to. But like I said, and I'm going to say it all year with this basketball team. I think for the most part, this team is what it is. We have to create turnovers and get out in transition. And when it comes to these kind of games, it'll be dependent on Wendell Green and KD Johnson to have big nights. And if they don't, we're probably not going to win.
Yeah.
So, Gray, man, I wanted to ask you one thing about Johan Traore, man. What does Bruce have to do to get him going, get him more involved? I know he was the second-rated highest recruit in Auburn history, man. What has to happen for this guy to really hit the floor running?
Yeah, a lot last year, and obviously it's a different situation with Allen coming back from injury last year. But I'm going to relate that to Traore because I think it's two things. I think it comes down to confidence and fit with Yohan. It doesn't look like he fits in any lineup we throw him out there right now. I don't know if playing him at the 4, that's his natural position. He's 6'10". He needs to play the 4, but it just doesn't look like he really gets where he's going and is in the right spot. And I don't know. I don't know. It doesn't look like he fits well. The second thing is confidence. It doesn't look like he's any confident out there. And with the production that he's getting, I wouldn't really be confident either. But that's something that Bruce and his staff and his teammates need to instill in Yohan. They didn't have to instill it in a guy like Jabari Smith. Jabari Smith had it as a freshman in high school. He knew he was the best player every time he walked out on the court. With Yohan, since he started playing basketball in 10th grade, it's a little different. I think putting him in lineups with Wendell and Jalen, the lineup with Yohan and Jalen when Janai was hurt and when Carball needed a rest, I liked that lineup because getting him in there with Jalen gave him some confidence. And I have no idea why, but he seemed to play better, especially defensively when he was in that lineup. I don't know. There's opportunities for him to be aggressive and to set the tone of him. Yeah, he's the second best player ever to come through Auburn, according to rank. But it just doesn't look like he understands that because Jabari did, Sharif did, Kessler did, JT Thor did. But I think we're going to have to put that into somebody like Yohan Traore.
Well, Dustin, man, I want to kick it over here to you. I know we have Georgia State coming up, and then we go out west with USC and Washington on that slate, man. Losing this game to Memphis, this West Coast trip that Auburn is about to take, are these must-win games? Does Auburn need to get these two big wins right here and get rolling into conference play?
I'm not going to say they're must-wins because the season is so long, but you would definitely like to see some of these issues cleaned up. You would definitely like to, like I said, at least start answering some of these questions, I wouldn't mind being in a tight game versus USC or Washington. I honestly would rather be in a tight game on the road versus us blowing them out. I hope one of those games is close, and I hope we get to find some stuff out. We're still, lineups. We're still going to have to experiment with lineups, see what we've talked about, maybe getting Trey some minutes. Man, we talk about Yohan. I've been high on him, but you just kind of got to say, what? Come on, man.
Yeah.
Same thing with Chance. It's just that one brick. I know Blake tweeted he broke the backboard. It was like, it was just really. It was bad, man. It was bad. And you make a good point, Gray. These other guys, they knew it. Even Chuma knew it early. It took Chuma time to develop, but he knew it. He knew he had that in him. And that's a good point you make about we're gonna have to show you on. So just a lot of those kind of questions I want to see him get figured out. I don't know about Zep at the 2, starting at the. There's some things maybe I think we can do to kind of tweak it around. If Chance was playing better, that would probably help Bruce out with that. He would be able to put Chance at the 2 and then move that situation around a little bit. So just answering questions. Yeah, I want to win them. I think going into the season, I believe I predicted us to split this trip. But looking at these two teams now, we should win these games. So we should go into conference play with just this loss to Memphis. So I would be disappointed if we get blown out in any of them. Then yeah, I'm going to be pretty upset.
Yeah.
Well, Gray, man, I got to ask you, I know winding down here, I don't want to keep you guys too much longer. Gray, man, I know a lot of people are going to overreact to this Memphis loss, but ultimately at the end of the year, when things wind down, we get into March after the SEC tournament, where do you see this Auburn team being? Are they NCAA tournament worthy? Are they NIT bound?
I think they're definitely NCAA tournament worthy. I think this team, just like we talked about earlier, has all the pieces and all the pieces that can come together very easily. With the coaching staff, with offensive and defensive weapons. Auburn, outside of this loss, Auburn has had one of the best, if not the best, defense in the country. They've got the players, they've got the experience, especially at guard, which was a major problem at the end of the year last year, not having real guard experience, especially when we got in the tournament and played somebody who did have guard experience like Miami. They embarrassed us. But I think at the end of the year, we're talking about where this team should be seated in the SEC and in the NCAA tournament. I think this Memphis loss will not only be a good loss, because I think Memphis is going to skyrocket after something like this and through the AAC, but a good loss for Auburn, because it sets them up very, very well down the road, especially going out west. I mean, you get a tune-up game against Georgia State. It's a decent Georgia State team at home, go out west, and then you go right into the meat of a very, very good SEC. SEC has 5 or 6 teams that could win the conference, and we haven't been like that since the 90s. That has not been like that in so long, because it's been for about 10 to 15 years. It was Kentucky and Florida and maybe Tennessee. So, but Alabama's really good. Kentucky's really good. Tennessee's really good. Arkansas is really good. Auburn's really good. Florida's a good team. That's the team you play first in the SEC. So there's ways that this team could really soar up and play really well and get hot, maybe from outside, and maybe find that set that we can go to at the end of games to win close games like that could move this team up and continue to, push them further and further and get them to a higher seed in the NCAA tournament. But I think, we just got to relax, not overreact, and let Bruce figure it out. Let's just trust in him.
Love that. Love hearing that. Trust in Bruce Pearl. Dustin, man, I want to get your final thoughts on the night. The floor is yours. Drop all your social media stuff, man, so all the listeners can find you.
Yeah, man, I've enjoyed this one. It's going to be a fun week. I think we're going to have several commits come in soon, and especially now that you've got those coordinators locked up and Hugh Freeze is working. So hopefully when we do our podcast in the middle of the week, we will have tons of commitments to talk about, and maybe some of these transfer portal guys too. I'm really excited for that tight end from FIU. His name is Fairweather.
Yes.
Yeah, they like him a lot, and they like our chances a lot with him. So yeah, that would be nice. I think he's like 6'4", 235, something like that. And Elvin Ingram today had 2 touchdowns, I believe. I know he balled out. So yeah, just Hugh Freeze, man. And then with basketball, just everything's gonna be okay. This was coming, and like I said, we're gonna have a long season. We're gonna have several nights where we look like this. If you go to 2019, you go to that 2020 team that unfortunately got cut short right when they were really getting hot. That's all you got to do. I mean, and the thing back to last year, we went on this big streak in the middle of the season, and then the issues, and we got cold at the wrong time. So, let's work these kinks out. It's fine. And as long as we're healthy and guys are getting hot and roles are defined, and like we talked about tonight, you just said, great. If we could find that set, it's nothing but up for this team. And we will play defense. I mean, even in this game, we touched on it, we still created 19 turnovers. Like, we're going to play defense. We're going to bring energy on defense. We're going to be hell for you on defense. You're going to have a hard time scoring more times than not. We don't usually get out rebounded like that. I don't anticipate that through over the season. I think Broom will rebound. He'll be fine. I know what Dylan can do in those guys. So that's not a problem, I think, that we're going to have night in and night out. So really, it's not a big deal, man. You never want to lose, but everything's going to be okay. And you can find me on Twitter at DMICHAUD28. It's DMcShot28.
Love that, brother. Love to hear it, man. Gray, we'll kick it over to you. Get your final thoughts. Drop all your social media stuff, man, so all the listeners can find you.
Yeah. Again, thank you guys so much for having me. Really enjoyed it. Yeah, with football, it's a domino effect. It's the freeze effect. Just be patient. The coordinator search is finally done. Let's roll right into the recruiting. Just like Dustin said, really excited about that FIU tight end. I think that Evan Ingram, what he did today, if we could just get somebody like him to fit in that Hugh Freeze offense, that would be perfect. But with basketball, just don't overreact to some loss like this. Every team is losing. There's not a team that looks absolutely incredible in college basketball right now. There's not a team without a problem or a loss that had a lot of problems. So just don't overreact. This team will be fine. This team has leaders. This team has a great coach and coaching staff. So we'll be fine. You can find me on Twitter at Gray Oldenburg, GrayOldemburg. And thank you guys so much for having me.
Fellas, I've enjoyed it. It's been a blast. I love talking Auburn sports just like both of you do. And hey, Gray, I'd love to have you back on anytime, man.
Yeah, man.
But with that being said, I'll leave y'all with a War Damn Eagle, and we'll get out of here. Y'all can catch us on the next one. We're out.